Welcome to the TMRN Time Monk Radio Network. I'm Jules, and today is the 26th of February 2011. Today we have author and researcher Patrick Geryl. Patrick is a long-time researcher on various topics from health, astronomy, the sun and the Mayan civilization, and its links to 2012. Patrick's website is howtosurvive2012.com. Hello Patrick, welcome.
Hello everybody, and I hope you can learn something from what I am saying today.
Yes, thank you, and I'm sure we will. The WebBot Forum administrator is Fox, and today he will be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the forum were kind enough to join us tonight. They include WebBot moderator Neo, and members Groundrod, Chuck, Lua, Odison, and Diane B. For listeners, this interview will assume you have a good understanding of Patrick's theories, in particular his research on the sunspot cycle and 2012. If you don't understand some of the questions asked here, please go to howtosurvive2012.com to find out about Patrick's books, and also there's a lots of free videos on YouTube. Okay, with that said, our opening question comes from Odison.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
My first question for you is starts with a quote. Isaac Newton once said, "If I've seen further, it is only by standing on the shoulders of giants." How do you feel standing on the shoulders of ancient astronomers has handicapped you most?
Well, I am very surprised with what I have found in the Dresden Codex of the Maya. In it, there is a theory that is not known by astronomers today, and I was able to decode a part of it. I put it on my website, and it's a recent update since last week, especially for today. And if there are any mathematicians listening, they can go to it and they can research it. I know from very good mathematicians that the theory is right. The basic principle is new, and the Maya were able to calculate with that theory the reversal of the magnetic field of the sunspots. And that is what they calculated for 2012. At the end of 2012, they expect a big reversal of the magnetic field of the sun. And I know a lot about astronomy. I made a long time ago, more than 30 years ago, several predictions. I was the only one who ever predicted an accelerating universe, and also quasars in the far infrared near the speed of light. Therefore, people have to understand that the predictions from the Maya are very, very advanced, and more advanced than our astronomers today. And that is what I want to tell to the people today.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Patrick, since we haven't seen much of you in the media for a while, the last being in the Canadian documentary on 2012, could you tell us how you have been, and especially after your latest article on your website about the precursor negative sunspots? How is your preparation going for 2012?
We have in Spain, there is a large survival group that already built several bunkers where more than a few hundred people can try to survive the events from 2012. And we are also doing on our own our survival. But what is especially important is that on August the 1st of 2010, there was a large event on the sun, never seen before. And you can see, you can find the link on my website to the NASA explanation. And they stated that the whole magnetic field of the sun was involved in it. People that have read my book, The World Cataclysm in 2012, can find there that I found that the magnetic field of the sun would start changing 874 days before the end. And if you calculate that back, that was around the 31st of July 2010. So the event that happened in August was what the Maya calculated would happen. And there is a lot more, because on that day there was a sunspot involved with that change of the magnetic field of the sun. And that sunspot was, I call it a negative sunspot. And why do I call it a negative sunspot? Because if that kind of sunspots is on the sun, then the solar flux is going down. The solar flux, what do I mean with that? If you have sunspots, you can give it a certain number, the brightness and the darkness of the sunspots, and that gives us a certain number. And with the solar flux, that you can lay that over that number from the sunspots, and that should be the same. But now, for the first time, we saw things that were never seen before by science. We saw sunspots that lowered the solar flux. So one number was going up, the sunspot, while the other one, that also should go up, went down. And therefore, I call this a negative sunspot. And also, the polarity of the sunspot looks to change while it is going over the solar, while it is going over the sun. So that are the most important things that we saw the last 6 months. From August till January of this year, we saw in total around, I think, 18 negative sunspots. And always when there were from these sunspots on the sun, you can find it on my website, there were special events on the sun, like large solar filaments never seen before from 700,000 kilometers, and global eruptions, and so on. So these sunspots are very important. But at the moment, there are only highly complex sunspots on the sun that can destroy our civilization at any moment in time. Because last week there was an X solar flare. If it had little bit higher, then it can destroy our worldwide grid system. And if that happens, then 90% of all people will die.
Thank you, Patrick. That's a very good segue into the section we're going to discuss, which is your 10-bit cycle. The next question we have is from Groundrod.
Yeah, Patrick, thanks for summarizing the last 6 months. It has been real interesting watching the sun. On February 15th, 2011, while facing Earth and just in time to reach us with a CME on the full moon, sunspot 11158 erupted with a 2.2 magnitude X-class flare. This was accompanied by nearly a week of the most violent behavior we've yet seen on the sun during this spot cycle. How do you view this particular event, and does the timing match up with your work?
Even if you have very low sunspot activity, there can be moments from a high sunspot activity that was seen even hundreds of years ago, that if there are almost no sunspots, and suddenly at once you can have a sunspot with big eruptions on it. So what happened last week is something that goes back to January. In January, we saw the last negative sunspot complex, and since then there are only complex sunspots. So something changed, and I think I already know what happened, because last week there was a stream of let us say, particles to the North Pole of the Sun. So I think the North Pole of the Sun is starting to change or has already changed. Could be close. And the activity has something to do with that. If that is true, then only the southern pole of the Sun has to change. If that happened, then the sunspot polarity has to change also to give us a mega solar flare that will destroy our civilization. So, what I am saying is that it can happen. We don't know when it will happen. I only know that there is a certain recurring cycle from 87 days that makes sense because you can calculate it with the Maya calculations. But what exactly changed the behavior of the sunspots the last weeks, I still don't know, because the theory from the Maya is so complex that I need at least dozens of mathematicians to decode it further, because it's a highly complicated theory with 6 unknowns at the moment. So I don't know how to solve all the problems.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. In your recent video on your site regarding the countdown of the bit cycle to 2012, you talk about Maya strength. Can you please explain the importance of the Maya strength and what is the difference between the high Maya strength and the low Maya strength in this cycle?
Yes, with the Maya theory, you can calculate a certain strength of the cycle. What is a bit? A bit is when the equator field catches up with the polar field. And that happens, according to the Maya theory, between 82 and 88 days. Now, the Maya calculate down with a special theory, and they say 87 days. I don't know exactly why they use 87 days, because in all my calculations it's more around 83 and 84 days. But I think it has to do something with the change of the speed of the equator and the polar fields. Problem is, I have values for the equator field till 20 years ago. And from the last 20 years, I don't have values from the equator, speed of the equator field from the Sun. And I need these speeds to calculate the length of the bit of the solar cycle. So at the moment, I am totally not possible to calculate anything. So why am I sure from the 87-day cycle? Because on the 1st of August from last year, 2010, that big change on the Sun happened. And since then, on 2 bits, there were a complex of sunspots that were on the Sun and had their highest activity on the 87-day bit cycle. So I am now expecting for April a new bit with a complex of at least 2 sunspots. Maybe it changed more than the previous times, because we only have now complex sunspots on the Sun since the last weeks. So I have to follow up, because and possibly need to adjust the theory to what is happening, because it's so complex that I only know a small part of what we have to know.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I was actually more referring to the Maya strength. I think in the January 21 period, it was, I think, 47.0.
Oh, yes, that was a low one. So the highest strength was on August the 1st, And then in October, it was half of the strength, and in January, it was a very low strength. In October, we saw 4 CMEs and 4 C flares, and in January, we saw only 8 C flares. So in April, it should be the same strength like in October, and then further in July, it will have or should have the same strength like in August last year. So it should be a complex eruption. And later this year, the Maya calculated for October a strength that is triple the one from August last year. So that could be a very huge outburst of solar activity at that moment.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. The reason I ask is that Cliff High of the WebBots work, there's a reference to a data gap in March 21, 2012, where the data drops to a fraction of 1%. Some people might think of that as maybe die-off. We don't know what the answer to that is. Interestingly, I noticed that around March 21, 2012, the cycle 3 starts on April 3rd, 2012, with a Maya strength of 225.8652. Is it possible that a major CME or CMEs occur during cycle 3 that could cause considerable damage to Earth and its electronic infrastructure, even far exceeding the Carrington event in 1859?
Well, that is possible, but that is also possible this year in October. So, but that is not the only possibility. At any moment in time, we can have an event larger than the Carrington one, because the solar cycle is going up. And the Carrington event happened when the solar cycle was going up. It was in the middle of the upward movement of the solar cycle, the Carrington event. So we are now going up. So later this year, we are somewhere in the middle. So that could be the highly dangerous phase for the next event. And I can't predict what is going to happen. We have to follow up the strength of the cycles, and we will know more in July of this year. If it's still going the same way like the previous ones, then it could be indeed a very devastating event later this year or in March next year.
Yes, thank you. And so the one that you talked about in October 11th, I think it's got a strength of 223.6. Now, how worried are you that the system might collapse before the pole flip occurs, particularly in terms of your survival strategy?
Well, we are trying to push things together. In the Spanish survival group is already ready. So, but we are not ready yet. We are trying to be ready against October. So, but not that many people are in our group. So, I would say if there are people interested in surviving, do your best, because it is possible that later this year in October everything breaks down and then you can't do anything. If there is no electricity, then you are lost completely. You can't move, the cars won't drive, there is no TV, there is no telephone, there is nothing anymore, so everything will break down completely, and then the chances for survival are so small that I don't think many people can survive that. Of course, in Africa, where they don't have electricity, there won't be a problem. In India, where they don't have electricity, or in the high mountains, there is no problem. But I talk about our civilization. I talk about Europe and the United States and Canada, Australia, and so on. We are the highest vulnerable for such a thing. And there is an official report from the United States government that if this happens, a Carrington effect, that 90% of all Europeans and Americans will die within 1 year. because if the electricity shuts down, the water pressure falls away, and after a few weeks' time in the cities, you will have a big outbreak of cholera and so on and so on. So I don't have to tell it to the people. Most of the people know it, or they can find it on the internet. So that is in short what I am afraid of. But we are trying to be ready against October.
Makes very good sense, Patrick. Chuck, you have a question for Patrick.
Yes, sir. Hello, Patrick.
Hello.
Based on your cycle, your 87-day cycle, do you see cyclical changes in the wind-up due to possible outside forces, i.e. another body or an unexpected, unexplained magnetic force affecting the sun?
As already said, the theory is highly complicated, and I need the help of a lot of mathematicians to find out why sunspots are there. According to what I think and what I have found in the Dresden Codex of the Maya, the sunspots are related to the movement of the planets, especially the big planets. So there should be somewhere something be found that if there is a sudden position of the planets, that we will have then sunspots. Because the reason is that in the Dresden Codex of the Maya, the sunspot theory is related to the movement of the planets. And at the end of 2012, the big planet, Jupiter, is not far behind the Earth. So any solar event will be mostly directed to the Earth. And that is what the ancients knew, and that is what we have to find back. And that is mostly the problem at this moment.
Thank you, Patrick. Odison, you have a question for Patrick.
Do you believe that the larger winding reoccurring cycle occurs with the severity? And what I'm really asking about is, with the size of the 2-kilometer waves that you're predicting, how do you reconcile that and the fact that they would overrun the continents with the genetic diversity of land-based creatures? And I'm talking about animals with small numbers, small habitats, no ability to fly or swim, temperature or chemical sensitivities, super specialized plant diets. How is there such diversity in the genetic sphere?
Well, that is easy to explain, and it depends on the solar activity. When such an event happens, there is a large wave of X-ray flares and other rays that are very short, like ultraviolet and so on. And they kill a lot of animals and plants because of the intensity of it. It's a bit like an atomic weapon, you can say. But because of the atomic rays, then the plants and the animals change very rapidly. So the last time that we had this cataclysm, 11,800 years ago, there were 50 large animal species that died out, and like giant beavers, lions that were 50% higher than now, and so on. But also there came other animals and plants in existence that didn't exist before. And that is what is going to happen again in 2013. A lot of plants that have or survive the wave of rays from the sun will blossom again, but they will look otherwise, just like animals. Possibly even people. But there is also another thing. There are animals and plants on the earth that exist for a very long time. So if you survive without being harmed by the rays of the sun, then you can exist for a very long time. But this is not happening that much. It's more like recreations every 11,500 years.
It sounds like you're saying that there will be parts of land that will remain dry. Is that correct?
No, almost the whole world will be covered by a tidal wave of around between 1.5 and 2 kilometers height. Most of South America has very large mountains, and it's very difficult for the water to go over it. So there will be a much higher tidal wave than in let us say in Australia or somewhere else. So the highest parts of Australia, they could be saved from the tidal wave, and the animals and the plants that survive there, they can spread again out, and after a few hundred years it will be full of life again. Just take an easy calculation. 2 people survive this cataclysm, and after 33 years they have 4 children, and 33 years later they have 8 children, and then after 100 years there are 16 people on the earth. Now my question is, if this goes on and on, how many people are there after 1,000 years? And most of the people will be surprised, but after 1,000 years, there are 1 billion people again on the earth. So when you start only with 2 people, and you have only 16 people after 100 years. So in reality, it goes even faster. If you have plants and animals, they spread like wildfire, and you have a almost total cataclysm. Only a few animals survive, and a few hundred years later, the whole earth is again populated with animals and plants and trees and so on and so on and so on. And you won't find almost a trace from the cataclysm.
Sounds like a party we don't want to miss. All right, so the next question is mine. Is there any evidence that the winding occurs in other solar systems as well? Is it possible to predict extrasolar cataclysms and observe them? Any idea why the pole equator divergence in other suns is not used for detecting extrasolar planets? Is it possible to witness this kind of magnetic break in other stars?
Yes, they have already seen that there is a differential rotation. This means that the rotation at the equator is not the same like on the polar. And they have seen that by several other suns. And normally it should be with every other sun. So the same cataclysm that happens in our solar system should happen on all the other suns from the whole galaxy. And they have seen it because the last years there are several suns that had a huge activity during two or 3 days, and then they went back to normal. So I think these suns had the same thing that will happen with us next year.
Interesting. So does it seem like they're seeing the explosions and they just don't know what they're looking at?
Yeah, they see a huge sun activity on other solar systems, and they can't explain what is happening. So, but if I remember exactly, I think in the last 5 years there were 4 of these events that were seen, and they happened during a very short time, 2 or 3 days. Just what I'm expecting to happen with us next year, and they can't explain it. So But they stated that if this happens on our solar system, that not many people can survive such a cataclysm.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you. The next one's mine. Do you expect the unwinding to be restricted in duration and intensity to its mirror image opposite from 12-21-12? In other words, a large release and a sudden return to normalcy, continue with violent action based on some other criteria?
I think, based on what we have seen on the other solar system, it will be a short duration, 2 or 3 days, but the intensity will be a lot higher than the last time. So the Earth crust slide that the last time put the United States from the polar circle to the equator will be a lot more. So if happens what I expect, then almost 50% of the United States will go under the polar circle. And the devastation will be, well, enormous. Not only that, I talked about it, but it was not recorded because my computer fell out. I have to say that I talked with people about the meltdown of the nuclear reactors, and at once somebody remarked, and he said, look, he said, there is also a lot of stored nuclear fuel that is cooled down. If the electricity fails, like NASA says, then also that stored nuclear fuel will melt down, and if that happens, that is 10 times worse than all the nuclear reactors melting down. So we don't not only have the natural cycle that will be a lot stronger than the last time, but we will also have possibly the total destruction of all existing life at this moment at the Earth, because the specialists said if that happens, the radioactivity will be so large that it is possible that nobody and even only a small amount of animals will survive this cataclysm.
I see.
Thank you. Sorry.
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question? Just a real short one. I just wanted to know if, so it sounds like you're saying that once the December 21st explosion occurs, that the activity should die down from the sun. That the sun is satisfied at that point, and
no, I think it will be 2 days, maximum 3 days that it happens.
And then we're done.
And then it will go down, and then we will have very few solar activity afterwards, maybe for tens of years, because in the old manuscripts from the Maya, they stated that you couldn't see the sun for almost 40 years. That is because of the outburst of the volcanic ash in a cloud around the Earth, and that mimics the sun, but also it was cold, and that could be because of the solar activity going down. Like we saw the last year, there was very low solar activity, and I expect that to happen again in 2013. That's one of the reasons, if you want to survive, that you need to be as close as possible to the equator, because the closer you will be to the equator, the warmer it will be.
I see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edison. Thank you, Patrick. I guess we have to stock up on vitamin D. The next question is for Lua.
Thank you. Patrick, in regard to the 87-day cycle, do you think we should be watching only for the negative sunspots rather than the more well-known and more normal activity of CMEs and solar flares? In other words, was it this new phenomenon of negative sunspots that the Maya were warning us about?
Yes, these negative sunspots, they appeared just right on the Mayan date, and the explosion was also on the Mayan date. So, but the other, I already told, I can't explain the magnetic forces from the other sunspots. I do think that they are related to the movement of the planets, and that the Maya knew a very maybe easy and clever way to calculate all the sunspots, but I am not able to do that. Do we need to see the sunspot activity? Well, I do think that we know enough at any moment in time, and I mean it can be tomorrow, it can be next week, can be a Carrington effect that is known, and then it's over and out for everybody. So I think we have more than enough material to start for our basic survival, and that is what I am doing, and that is what I am hoping that other people also will do. You don't have to watch the solar activity, just start doing precautions and try to there are mountains in the United States, so anybody can try. Even even if you don't have that much money, you can try. Everything is possible, you know.
Thank you, Patrick. Neo, you have a question for Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Jules. Patrick, magnetic changes not only affect Earth, which you state in your theory might flip the Earth's magnetic field, but also humans are magnetically sensitive creatures. Our culture seems to have amnesia, and many of us do not remember the last pole shift except through legends and myths. Also, there is the story of Babel in the book of Genesis, which states that after the Great Flood, the people lost the ability to communicate with each other. Could the coming magnetic storms from the sun do that, and could we all lose our memories, or worse, have permanent lobotomies because of this magnetic effect?
Well, I expect to be indeed that we will have problems with that, but I think most of the animals will have a lot more problems than we have, because they use the magnetic field. Most of the animals use the magnetic field to find their way. So I think more animals will be affected than humans. We also will be affected, but I think we can better resist it than all the animals on the earth. And I hope, but I am not sure of it, that if we know, like we know all the things that will happen, that we can implant the changes that will occur. I'm not sure, of course, but the last time the people survived, and they were able to give their descendants the information that in a far away future, something the same will happen again, like what will happen in 2012. So that includes that the changes are not that dramatic, and that the memory is still valid after such an event.
Oh, great. So the fact that we are aware, we know what is happening, is to our advantage.
Yes, but I have to say, I don't know, but the people that didn't read my book, I will give an update. There was a high civilization on Earth that was very good in astronomy and in mathematics. There happened not a pole shift, but the Earth suddenly moved 72 degrees into the zodiac, and that was more than 20,000 years ago. And then they decided to build an astronomical building to calculate such an event in the future. And around 10,000 BC, they were aware that in a not a far way future, this will happen again. This is a story, in fact, of the Bible from Noah, but this is coming from a high civilization that escaped to Egypt. And this high civilization, they found out the theory of the sunspot cycle, and with that theory they were able to calculate the previous date. And so a large part of the people escaped, and they restarted the civilization in Egypt and with the Maya, and also in China and other places. So what we have from this is that high civilization can give to his descendants the information from a very long time ago. And I hope that we can do that again in 2013, because we will have a big library with lots of books and information. And I hope to restart not a civilization that we have today, but another kind of civilization in a very rapid time.
Thank you, Patrick. Patrick, how concerned are you with what is currently happening with the Earth's magnetic field, including the acceleration of the North Pole towards Siberia, and the magnetic anomalies which are causing bird deaths, fish deaths, and cow deaths, and sinkholes? As with the sun flipping its poles, could the magnetic field of the sun flip without this sunburst initially?
Well, the magnetic field, first we have to say that the magnetic field of the Earth is already declining since a very long time. A few Danish astronomers have found that more than 5,000 years ago the magnetic field from the Earth was still strong, and then the Sahara Desert was at that time a very livable place. There were trees, there were a lot of animals, and the reason was that the magnetic field of the Earth was then stronger, and that more water fell down from the Earth, because the clouds had a different route than they have now today because of the weakening of the magnetic field. So the weakening of the magnetic field is already happening since more than 6,000 years, and has an effect already since a very long time. And now we are in the last phase. So everything is the last 100 years, the magnetic field weakened another 10%. At some places like above South Africa, you can see a reversed polarity already from the magnetic field of the Earth. And what is happening with the animals and the birds and the fish and so, if you look, I have a link on my website to another website, and there I explain that the most of the die-off of the animals is very near to the zero, or between the 0 and 10% line of where the magnetic field should be. So there is a strong correlation between the magnetic field of the Earth and the die-off of the animals.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. And we did read that thing you had on blog 2012. Now, Patrick, in regards to the rotation changing, on the sun there was a flip of the magnetic poles in 2000 or 2001.
Yes.
Now, did the rotation of the sun change? The reason why I'm asking that is I wanted to use my logical cap and see the difference between, if the poles flip on Earth, is it possible the rotation of the Earth might not change?
No, that is something else. So I explained that in the theory that you can find on my website, how that happens. So the flip of the poles of the sun is induced by just a normal winding up from the cycles, and then it just changes. It's a very easy calculation. You have a peak in the intensity of the north polar field or the south polar field, and if the peak is reached, then afterwards it goes down, and because it goes down, then you have a change of the magnetic field of the poles from the sun without a change in the movement of the sun. but the change in the movement of the Earth is induced by the turning around from the inner core. So well, I have to explain that in a total new way. A wave of particles from the Sun with southern polarity will reach the Earth at the end of 2012. That is my expectation. The South Pole, the Earth has an angle of 23 degrees. The South Pole from the Earth at the end of 2012 is looking to the Sun. So the inner core of the Earth has a South Pole. The wave of particles has a South Pole. South Pole and South Pole, they don't match together. So the inner core of the Earth is then pushed upside down 180 degrees. And if you push a ball, if you take a ball and you turn it around, and while turning around, you push it 180 degrees upside down, then you will see that the movement has reversed. And that will happen with the core of the Earth. Now, the magma won't follow that principle directly, but that will go something slower. So if you look at the Earth from, let us say, from the moon, then one day you see the Earth moving from left to right, and then very shortly thereafter, because the inner core goes upside down, you will see a crust movement from the United States to the pole, and on the other side you will see China going to the equator, and Africa and Europe are less or more stable. And after that, you will see that the movement of the Earth will go then from right to left. And that is why the movement of the Earth will change, and the movement of the Sun, I think, won't change in 2012, but it's a good question. I'm not completely sure of it. It is possible that also something will happen with the Sun, that it will start rotating the other direction, but I don't think so. The chance for the Earth is 100%, and for the Sun, you don't need a movement changing for the reversal of the poles. So,
okay. Thank you, Patrick.
If there are mathematicians, or you don't need to be a mathematician. If you had high school, you can see it. It's easy explained on my website in a Word document. And most of the people that went to school to 18 years, they can understand it. It's basic explanation.
Thank you, Patrick. Lua, you have a question for Patrick.
Thank you. Patrick, can you talk about the difference between a magnetic pole shift and a geographical pole shift, and why you believe that this shift is going to be a geographical shift?
No, it's both. It's both. The North Pole will turn into the South Pole, and what is the basic explanation? Because of the inner core turning upside down. This means that if now, like now, the North Pole is standing up and the South Pole is standing down, and if you turn at 180 degrees, then you have the South Pole standing up and the North Pole standing down. You understand?
Yes, what I was asking was the difference between the two.
Yeah, it is the same. It's the same happening in one time. So now we face the North Pole up, and then in 2013, the South Pole will be standing up. So we have a magnetic shift and a geographical shift because of the inner core moving up 180 degrees. We, at the same time, have also an Earth crust slide and a reversal of the rotation of the Earth. So both are happening together in 2012. So it's the same. It's not what is happening now with the magnetic North Pole that is moving away 40 kilometers. That is something else. That has nothing to do with what will happen in 2012. It has something to do, but not what I mean will happen.
All right.
Is that what, do you understand?
Yes, not quite. Does it involve a equator bulge that will disappear and allow a crustal shift? Is that what you're saying is going to happen here?
Yeah, at the equator there is a bulge. Now, at a certain moment in time, if the inner core starts rotating the other side, then the Earth will stop moving. And at that moment, the equator bulge will disappear, and then the Earth crust can slide in a few hours, thousands of kilometers. And that is necessary to have the Earth crust slide, because now at this moment, if the Earth is rotating, it's impossible for the Earth crust to go over the bulge from the equator. And because of the upside down rotation of the inner core, we will have the possibility to look, as if you look at it, you will see at a certain moment the Earth standing still, if you look from the moon, and at that moment the rapid pole shift can happen.
Okay. Do you see the cycle repeating itself again in another 11,500 years?
Yes.
And do you have any idea about how we might manage to warn the people of the future about the cycle without running into the interpretation problems that this culture has had?
Whoa. Well, that is my biggest, I'm thinking about that since years and years, and I don't know what to do. I was in Istanbul a few months ago, and I visited the Hagia Sophia. It's one of the most remarkable buildings ever built. And I was thinking about making, I don't know what, something like the pyramids or something like the Hagia Sophia, but then about the polar fields and the equator field of the sun, and to warn the people in the future that they have to study the cycles from the sun, and that and to refine the theory, because I still don't know how exactly they calculated the date. I have a lot of things to crack to find that, but I am sure that a new civilization will be able to do that. So I was suggesting to other people from my survival group, look, in the far future, we need to build buildings. I don't know if it has to be pyramids, but maybe it has to be something huge, and it has to be made very clever, like with hieroglyphs, but better understandable, basic mathematics, basic things on it that everybody can understand and decode, because now I needed years to decode the Dresden Codex and the codes from the Egyptians to find what they mean and which year they mean, and so on and so on. Because the Egyptians give the same year like the Maya, but they give it with a Venus Orion code. If Venus makes a turnaround movement above Orion, that is the year that the end will be near, and that is happening in 2012. It's not only that, because of Venus making that movement, you can also see that it is turning around above the two highest stars from Orion. And that is why I'm so sure that 2012 will be the end of times.
Thank you, Patrick. Just a quick follow-up. Could the crust maybe not shift, but could it slip without a magnetic pole flip? Maybe we're thinking about if the ice in Antarctica melted and it caused a change in the weight of the different continents. Could that also cause a crustal slip?
Do you have one moment, and can you then ask the question again?
I think it's going to break and then just drop on both sides of the mountain. So you'll get the water on the other side of the mountain, but it won't have the momentum. So you get in a little that's how you get like the salt lake.
May I say something?
You're back.
There was, I think, a large earthquake in Alaska 50 or 60 years ago, and the water went 500 meters high into the mountain.
Right.
You can see that on a documentary from National Geographic, I think.
Right. I actually, that was one of the tsunamis I studied. I actually came up with a kind of a loose formula. It seems like when the wave height doubles, it travels an order of magnitude more inland. I don't know if that matches your calculations.
No, but what I am talking about is that I speak about not about a tsunami. It's something completely else. It's a reversal of the rotation.
Right.
So, and according to the old manuscripts, the last wave was the highest.
Right. Well, I figured that would be true. Sorry, I wanted to interrupt.
We are not talking about a tsunami here. We are talking about a reversal of the rotation. It's like driving a very fast airplane and then crashing down, and then you just go further. Huh? That's it.
Lua, you have a question for Patrick.
Oh, yes, thank you. Many psychics and prophecies depict the movement of the North Pole as being toward Siberia. The magnetic North Pole is already traveling at a rate of greater than 40 miles per day towards Siberia. There are some authors.
Per year. It's 40 miles per year.
I'm sorry, it's per year. Yes, you're right. There are some authors who offer this as proof that the geographic movement of the pole will indeed travel towards Siberia. I have read your prediction that the North Pole is going to travel toward the Hudson Bay area, thereby turning the United States area into an Arctic climate. Can you share with us the reason why you think it will travel this direction instead of following the route that the magnetic pole is already traveling?
Well, the reason is I have read the books of Robert Felix, and he researched the ice ages in North America and in other places, and he found out that most of the time the United States is covered for a large part with 1 kilometer ice. 12,000 years ago, Chicago and New York didn't exist. Above Chicago, there was more than 1 kilometer ice. And the reason was that it was at that time under the then South Pole, because now it's the North Pole, but then it was the South Pole. And because of the research of Robert Felix, I expect that the highest chance is that the United States will again go under the South Pole, not under the existing North Pole, but the new South Pole.
Oh.
And I think that is the biggest, the North Pole will change into the South Pole, so the place stays the same, so the United States will move now where Canada is and higher. So that is what I expect.
Okay. Is there any place on the North American continent which you believe might be safe, and what is the minimum elevation that you would consider safe?
The minimum, that is hard to tell, because it depends. If you are close to the equator, because of the bulge going down there, you need to be at least 3 kilometers high, close to the equator, because the mountains can sink very rapidly. I give an example. Lake Titicaca is a very strange lake with sea animals. So my theory is that it was created the last time moving from 0 kilometers to 5 kilometers high. The opposite can happen in 2012. So if you are close to the equator, the higher you need to be very, very high. If you are far away, thousands of kilometers from the equator, I think 2 kilometers can do it. But you need also to know that you need to be far away from supervolcanoes like Yellowstone Park, at least 1,000 kilometers, and 500 kilometers from other volcanoes, because they can be very, very highly destructive at the end of 2012.
Okay. Do you believe that with this pole shift, those species who survive the shift will find themselves dealing with entirely new kinds of life on the planet?
Life will change dramatically because if you have an Earth crust slide and you have, let us say, a tropical climate, and suddenly you are going to a very polar climate, you have to adapt. Plants, animals, everything. Humans also, we have to adapt. My survival group, or the survival group from Spain, if Spain goes closer to the equator, it will be okay. But if my prediction is not okay, and the axis from South Africa and Europe will go poleward, then we can end in one day 3,000 kilometers higher. So Spain will have then the same climate like Norway or Sweden has today, so very, very cold. And there's not much possibility then for the survival group to survive. Then we have to adapt very quickly and to look for our way out to Africa.
All right. Do you think that there's a way for humans that the humans to make it through the globe without evolutionary changes? If it is the way to do that to stay below ground, and if so, for what period of time? Would you suggest that we would need to remain out of the effects of whatever the rays are that cause those evolutionary changes?
If you are in the high mountains and you are behind a rock from at least 2 to 3 meters thick, then you don't have the rays, the deadly, or the rays that will kill you or will change your DNA. So that's very easy. So if you do that, or the animals that do that, they won't change. So you only need to stay out of it, I think, till it is over, maximum 3 days.
Oh, really? So that's not a very long period of time at all?
No, it's not a very long time. No, but the problem is, like I stated before, that if the nuclear reactors melt down and the stored cooled nuclear fuel, well, I don't know what will happen, but that can mean the end of all life on Earth. Temporarily, yeah? Because there will be new life recreated, of course. But that is what I'm very afraid of.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lua. Diane B., you have a question for Patrick?
Yes, Patrick, good evening. Have you heard of the Earth expansion model? Dinosaurs couldn't live in the current era of Earth with the gravity we have now, as apparently their heads were too big. So they think the gravity was less in ancient times. If the expansion model is true, how would that affect your theory or your conclusions of what may happen? For example, if the Earth has been expanding, any crustal shift or reversed rotation of the Earth now may have less impact due to the Earth being larger this time around compared to previous pole shifts. So the waves might not be as high. They may lose attenuation before reaching the latitudes past 60 north and south.
Okay, I understand your question, but I don't believe in that the Earth has expanded a lot. What I know is that the devastations were larger in ancient times than they are now, because the movement, there was more, how do you say that, lava that could flow easier than at these days. The Earth cooled down, and in ancient times it was hotter. So the crustal shifts that happened at that time were a lot more devastating than what they are now. To give an example, if you look at Mars, it has no fluid inner core at the moment, so you can't have there big crustal shifts. And in the future, far away, if the Earth cools down more, then you can't have the happenings that will happen in 2012. But there is something that I have to tell. What will happen next year is a recharging of the battery of the Earth that protects us against the solar radiation and the radiation from the stars. If this doesn't happen, we will also die very rapidly, because if the magnetic field of the Earth goes to zero, we are also bust. And if the Earth rotation stops moving, we will also die. So the events of next year are in fact a way to preserve, to destroy, and to preserve the life on Earth. And that is what I think the basic part, but I don't think the Earth has changed that much against the ancient times. It's a slow movement. If you can see from a very long time ago, there wasn't a big change in the movement of the Earth. They can check that with things from millions of years ago, and then they can calculate the time that was needed for a rotation of the Earth a day against this time, and that didn't change that much in millions of years.
Thank you very much. That was the question I was going to ask about measuring the time of the Earth rotating. That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Chuck, you have a question for Patrick?
Yes. I'm wondering, do you think we are seeing changes in the sun's composition, the surface, the light spectrum, due to any dust from the Oort cloud, rather like mixing with the surface as the sun moves through it?
Yes. I can't say anything logic about that, because I didn't research that. So the only thing that I am looking at is the sunspot theory, and I am trying to find something that the Maya knew to calculate what will happen in the future with the sun. And I think that they are a lot closer than and it's a lot easier than what we are looking for. I think the relation with the planets is essential for that, to find everything about the sun. I mean everything, because the theory, as you can see on my website, is only the basic. It's the same like the theory from Newton. Newton had the gravitation theory, and from that theory you can find tens of other theories. And with the sunspot theory, it's the same. It's the basic theory, just like Newton, and from that theory on, you can find tens of other theories. And I need, like I stated before, the help of mathematicians to crack the codes further. And, well, if there are mathematicians interested in it, I would say go for it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. And for everyone, all these details are available on Patrick's website at howtosurvive2012.com. Groundrod, do you have a question for Patrick?
Patrick, as the 0 hour approaches, is there anything within your model or study of the ancient past that suggests the rate of time itself is changed by this process?
The rate of time, no, I don't think that has changed. For me, it has changed, because the older I am, the faster the time looks to go. So I've read that if you are young and you can absorb more pictures in a second than when you are older. So it looks that the times goes slower when you are young. And the older you are, then it goes faster. And with the 0 date nearing, it goes even faster and faster for me.
You sound very much young at heart, Patrick, so probably all that orange juice that you drink. So, okay, Diane, you have a follow-up question for Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Patrick, have you looked into other reasons for the sun's behaviour, including a theory from Russian physicists, and where they say that we're moving through a more energetic area of space that's exciting our sun and the planets in the solar system, or the theories where our sun is part of binary start and at the return of binary partner every 3,600 years is causing gravitational pull onto our sun and other planets in our solar system?
Yeah, this theory could make sense, but because of all the complexities that I have with the theory that I found in the Dresden Codex, I can't tell anything logic about it. I wanted to find in the labyrinth in Egypt, you can find the link from that on my website. In Egypt, there is a huge labyrinth from 3,000 rooms, where all the calculations leading to 2012 could be found. Now, we were excavating that labyrinth until the summer of 2009, and then Dr. Zahir Hawass, the famous guy from National Geographic, with his hat on, he stopped the excavation of the labyrinth because of the relation with 2012. And because of this reason, I can't find what the Egyptians knew about all the things and the happenings from 2012. So I only have the sunspot theory, and I lost because of the reason that they shut down the excavations, the very highly important things that I hope to find in the labyrinth. I wrote in my book, The World Cataclysm, not only in that one, but also in the Orion Prophecy, that in that labyrinth that was described by Herodotus 2,500 years ago. Herodotus visited Egypt, and he wrote about the pyramids. Well, they are nice, the pyramids, but he said, I'm walking now during hours and hours through the labyrinth, and this is the most fantastic building I ever seen in my life before. So after reading this, I started my quest for the labyrinth, because I read somewhere else from a Frenchman that translated a story from the Temple of Dendera, that all the questions related to the theories about 2012 could be found in a room that he called the Circle of Gold. And there, in a very large room, completely covered or sheeted with gold, the calculations leading to the events from 2012 were to be found there. Unfortunately, as I said before, our excavations were stopped 1.5 years ago, and I don't think we will get ever the chance again to restart these excavations. We have to see. I hope Zahir Hawass will be thrown out of his office. They are demanding his resignation at the moment, but because he was family from Mubarak. So I hope it's still that we can still find that golden room, and then we can say what the Egyptians and the Maya knew about all the astronomical things that are related to the sunspot cycle and the other things.
Thank you, Patrick. The reason we asked that question was, binary star systems are acknowledged as the most common form of solar systems in the galaxy. There is a lot of evidence, and if you look at your actual calculations themselves, you calculated the bit cycle from the cataclysm between 29,808 BC and 21,312 BC, and that was only 8,496 years, whereas this current one from 9,792 BC to 2012 will be 11,804 years. So the big difference would maybe indicate there must be some sort of other gravitational body pulling that to change the actual interval.
Yeah, I still haven't found what the crucial thing is to calculate the big sunspot cycle. So what I have found is that there is a cycle from solar activity every around 3,800 years. So, but that can be hundreds of years lower or larger. And it has something to do with that, but there can be other things. So I don't know. So that's what I am so frustrated that they stopped the excavations at the labyrinth in Egypt, because I was very sure to find there most of the answers that we are demanding.
Yeah, we're very frustrated too. I wish you had the time to look at that, but we're running out of time, I guess. Chuck, you have a question for Patrick?
Yes, sir. This is from Cliff. Given the now revealed nature of the plasma streams that dominate the solar surface movement, as well as participating in electrical distribution through the sun, does he consider it to be likely that the equatorial pull of the planets in their orbit continue to contribute flow instability to the sun and flow, polarity-wise, reversals as a result of planetary alignments, i.e., when we have oppositions of the gas giants or large cross or dagger alignments? If so, do you think it's worth the effort to plot planetary positions relative to the Earth and Sun in 2012?
Yes, that is a very, very good question. So I am sure, because of the relationship in the Dresden Codex, that the events from 2012 are related to the movement of the planets. Why am I so sure? Because the 1st of August had a planetary alignment. There were 6 planets involved. I don't remember what kind of, and they were just 3 on one side and 3 on the other side aligned, and that was the 1st of August. And then we had that big outburst of activity with related to the magnetic field of the sun. So that was one relationship that pinned it down. And I am looking for things for 2012, but still not found. The only thing that I have found is that Jupiter is behind the Earth, and that the barycenter of the Sun is looking to the Earth at the end of 2012. And the barycenter, that means if you have a hammer, the center of the mass is more to the metal than the middle. So at the end of 2012, the planets are pulling at the gravitation of the Sun, and the barycenter of the Sun is outside the Sun and looking to the Earth at the end of 2012. And that is very important, because that is related. If you have then a huge solar outburst, then everything goes directly to the Earth. And that is what the ancients knew, and that is what we have to look for.
Thank you, Patrick. Neo, you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Jules. This is from Cliff. In your opinion, is it all solar cycles essentially the same in their behavior? That is to say that the previous cycle to this one produced effects from the human viewpoint that will be identical to what we can expect in 2012, or is there potential for variability in severity? If so, where do you think the 2012 event will rate in the catastrophic scale?
Yeah, of course, we can see on the solar cycles, if you study the solar cycles from the last hundreds of years, You have low solar cycles and you have huge solar cycles. And the last one, solar cycle 23, was not that high, but I think at the end of 2004, there was a huge outburst of activity that just missed the Earth. If that activity had reached the Earth and hit us, then all the electric grid system from the whole world would have completely destroyed. So we escaped at that moment, and but we won't escape next year. It's a question. I don't know what will happen in October. Will this be a huge outburst? I don't know. We have to watch. Will it be March next year? It could be. No cycle is the same. There is a huge variability, and I hope in the future that if we can restart civilization, that our descendants have very good mathematicians to crack the codes further, so that we can calculate what is going to happen in the future. But saying this, we need to know that we can't restart a civilization like we have today, because a Carrington effect happens, well, if that happens every, let us say, 150 years, and we have a huge civilization based on electricity and computers, then most of it is wiped out or destroyed. And I think we need to restart a civilization on a lower level with with electricity not distributed like we have now, but on a much smaller scale. And I explained that also in my book. We never will have in the future a civilization with the level we have reached today. I'm, well, quite sure of that, pretty sure, because this event will wipe us out completely. Just go back 200 years in time, and then you will see what I mean. The last time we had 11,500 years between the cataclysms. Now it is 11,800 years. That's 300 years more. What did we do in 300 years? An unbelievable part. And so in very short time, we can reach a super high level of everything. But we can also lose it in a flash, and that is what will happen. Everything will be wiped out.
Yep. Yes. Thank you, Patrick. I know I've got my abacus ready. Groundrod, you have a question?
Well, this is from Cliff as well, Patrick. Do you think it probable that planets such as Earth, with active plates floating on energetic magma, obviously heated to this energy by some process, have plasma cores rather than spinning molten metal? If so, what is your take on the planetary expansion model?
Yeah, that's quite complicated. Well, if you look at our solar system, the Earth is quite unique with the crust. The other ones are not having the same, or most of them don't have the same like we have. I don't think our Earth is much larger than millions of years ago. Is that what you meant?
I'm not sure.
I think I know. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, well, Lucas, I've been, I think that the idea is that the plasma, that the Earth is a lot larger than it was a long time ago. Yeah. And that, and I think what Cliff was saying, and he mentioned this in an interview, that he was hoping that if the expansion model with a plasma core was correct, that the effects at the surface of the Earth would be less severe, and that we might not reverse direction because, of course, we wouldn't have the problem of a spinning solid core in the center changing direction and subsequently changing the direction of the Earth.
Okay.
So I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah. I don't think we changed a lot in millions of years, so there will be, of course, in the future, as I stated before, if the inner core of the Earth grows, then at a certain moment in time, the polar reversal will stop, but also life on Earth will stop then. We are now only alive because of these happenings. If it doesn't happen, we wouldn't be alive. No magnetic field. If the magnetic field of the Earth drops to zero, we will die. And all the animals on the Earth will die. So this is needed.
I think part of that system, the hope in that system, is that the plasma would generate a magnetic field similar to what conventional science thinks the dynamo does. I don't know if it's correct. I mean, honestly, nobody really knows because we can't drill down that far.
Nobody knows. But if you just think logically, the magnetic field of the Earth is going down, so you need to recharge it. How can you recharge it? By a plasma storm, of course. And how can you explain the polarity changes from North and South Pole every 11,005 years? Well, you can only explain that if the inner core goes upside down, and that explains then the Earth crust slide, the tidal wave, and all the rest. And it is what the ancients stated, because on the temples from Egypt in Dendera, you can see that after a cataclysm, the Earth started rotating on the opposite from the zodiac. So it makes complete sense to me that what they are telling the ancients.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Did you have a follow-up?
Well, it's mostly just an observation I got from Cliff a few hours ago, Patrick, and I was curious what you thought about it. Is his observations on the east coast of all the continents except Antarctica resemble each other, and the west coasts of all continents resemble each other in both geology and geomorphology, and even cartographically. Yet no west coast really resembles the east coast of the same continent. This is markedly apparent in the Americas North and South, and even is true of Greenland, Great Britain, Australia, and even India. This is also true of species of fish and critters found on the opposing coasts. Even Australia, taken as a whole, to include Europe, conforms to this observation. Have you looked at that?
Not really, but you need to understand that this cataclysm is every 11,500 years, and that can have huge changes to a lot of things that we obviously not can explain. And there could be an easy explanation for it that we overlook. So I don't have an explanation for it.
Thanks, Patrick.
Diane, you have a question for Patrick.
Yes, this is another one from Cliff. Given that the orbital center of rotation of the moon is within the...
Oh, yeah, wait, one moment. Now I understand the question better. If you have a crust slide to the pole, let us say the United States is going to slide to the pole, then the mountains from the United States and Canada will go up. the mountains that are in South America and that go to the equator, they go down. The same is if you have a reversal of the rotation of the Earth, depending from what kind of movement that you make, then the mountains can go up or down because of the stopping of the rotation and the way to the other side. So that has to be the right explanation. The same like the mountains will go up in the United States and in Canada when you go to the pole. And in China and the Himalaya rose the last time because it went up to poleward, and now it will go to the equator. So it is possible that the Himalayas will go kilometers down in 2012. Do you understand this?
Oh, we're trying to, Patrick. It's a very deep subject.
Yeah.
I think we need to listen to it again.
Yeah. Okay, Diane, ask your question, please.
Yeah, this is from Cliff as well. Given that the orbital center of rotation of the moon is within the crust of the Earth, suggesting almost certainly that the moon is hollow, rather than between Earth and the moon, what do you think will be the impact of this effect on any potential flattening of the equatorial bulge of the Earth and subsequent crustal shift?
Yeah. I don't think that will do a lot. Never thought about it, of course, but if you see that the moon has a minor effect on the sea, then it will also have a minor effect on the crust. And I don't think this will be very high. The movement from the Earth, the reversal of the rotation will be mostly coming from the inner core of the Earth. And the moon won't have that much of an effect.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. We'll just finish this part and then we go into 2012 survival. You talked about Lake Titicaca, and we're thinking about safe places. You know, with Lake Titicaca, obviously it came up from a seaport very high up. These upthrust events, do you consider that in your calculation of safe places? Because you talk about going to mountains, but what happens if an upthrust event causes a particular sea level location to go up 8,000 feet?
I told you before, you have to stay away thousands of kilometers, at least 2,000 kilometers if possible, or 1,500 kilometers from the equator at the moment. Let us say that you are now in Brazil in the high mountains, and the earth crust slide happens, and Brazil is catapulted 3,000 kilometers higher. And if you go over the equator, then the mountains can collapse completely. You will be wiped out by the tidal wave. Doesn't have to be 2 kilometers high, even 1 kilometer high, and you are gone. That is why I am stating on my website that you need to be you need to have several groups around the world, but because you don't know beforehand how the crust slide will happen. You can only guess. I'm guessing the United States, but it can also be the axis from South Africa and Europe. And then most of the people in the United States will survive. In Europe will be completely gone. So that is a possibility, but it's not a high possibility. And to survive this, we need a lot of places survival groups. As high as possible, at least, I'm saying, 2 kilometers high. And then you have a chance. And the most chance you have in Africa, like South Africa or Ethiopia or the high mountains of Morocco and so on, because Africa is the most stable continent. You can find there animals that live a very long time.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Odison, your survival plan.
Hi. So I'm attempting to survive by being intentionally submerged by the tsunami inside a moderately...
No, it's, sorry, it's not a tsunami, it's a reversal of the rotation of the Earth. So, tsunami,
I'll say a giant wave, you know.
A giant wave, yeah. I don't know how to call it.
Yeah. I think tsunami is Japanese for giant wave, so.
Yeah.
But who knows what the usage is.
Like in the Bible, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm planning on attempting to survive the giant wave by being intentionally submerged in a moderately reinforced, airtight polyethylene water tank and floating to the top. Basically a family-sized Niagara Falls barrel. Are any of your peers planning airtight corks, and what are the risks and prospects?
Yes. So I put on my website that I live in Belgium, and we make unsinkable boats here. So in the beginning, people were interested in the plan of an unsinkable boat, but then they read my book that you don't know where you will land with a boat because there is no GPS system. You can't know where the stars are because of the Earth crust light. You don't know your longitude. You don't know your latitude. You first need to make complete other calculations. And most of the people that first choose the option from an unsinkable boat, or it's the same like what you want, they backed off and they say, well, we have a much better chance in surviving in a high mountain, and we will go for the high mountain. One of the reasons of that is also you don't have survival material with you. How are you going to survive if you don't have survival material? You need at least for 3 to 5 years of food. You need 20 pairs of shoes. You need clothes. You need and so on and so on. So you can only place that in a high mountain, because in an unsinkable boat is a small amount of place. You can survive with 4 people, but there is only a minor place for survival material. That concerns a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diane, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, please. I just wanted to ask regards to his statement about Africa. We've seen a lot of stuff in the media and from geologists about the rift opening up. How does that fit in with your suggestion of Africa?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a risk, of course, but you have the same risk everywhere. Talk about Yellowstone Park. If Yellowstone Park explodes, 50% of the United States is gone. And then you have a supervolcano in the Bay of Naples in Italy. So if that goes, everything around 1,000 kilometers is gone also. And then you have a supervolcano, Toba in Indonesia. You can see it on the Discovery Channel, that went off 70,000 years ago and nearly wiped out all human people on the whole world. So the problems are everywhere. And that is the reason why I say that we need to have survival places on as much places as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lua, you have a question?
Yes, Patrick, I understood from one of the interviews that I watched that you are recruiting people to join your survival community with an investment of something in the neighborhood of $50,000.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what this buys an investor? Does it buy just the survival pod, or does it include a supply of food and supplies?
We want 3 to 5 years food for each person, and also the things to restart the civilization. Like we need to buy for tens of thousands of dollars of books. If everything from computers is wiped out, you need to know the basics of mathematics, of chemistry, of surgery, and so on. And the only thing that you can that we can have them is in books. So you need for tens of thousands of dollars of books, and then saws, and you can make it. The list is on my website. So we have a huge list from more than 400 items that we will have them for all the people that buy in it.
Oh,
and also the survival bunker and all the rest. So it's cheap, because if you buy a house in Belgium, a house is now, you can have it for $400,000, a medium house in Belgium. So.
Well, I also understood from the interview that you're not letting people know where they're going, not even those who've invested. Is this true?
No. We can have people that, first we need to know, are you okay for the community? Do you have skills that are okay for us? Because we need to restart from scratch. So we need builders, we need people that can make, we need dentists, we need surgery, and so on. We don't need lawyers. We can't do anything with lawyers. We don't need journalists. We can't do anything with journalists. You understand? We need people that, you can be a journalist or you can be a lawyer, and then if you do agriculture, then it's okay, of course. But we need people that can do something. You have to fill in the form, and if we see that you can do something, and then you have to show your skills, then it's okay that you can work with us, of course.
Okay, well, the question I meant was, do the people that you have recruited that have invested, do they know where they are going? I can understand why you would not want to announce to the world where your community is, but do the people that have invested know where they are going?
Yes, they know where they are going.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, what are the plans?
It will be the Southern Europe. So.
Oh, okay. So what are your plans for the rest of your life following the pole shift in terms of survival with a community of people? Are you planning an agricultural society, a hunter-gatherer society, a pastoral nomadic society? Is it a society based on meat eating or veganism? Are you including children in the planning? How about pets, livestock, animals?
No, not too fast, not too fast.
Okay. What you want?
There are a lot of people that. One moment. You can ask. You can re-ask after my reply. So we have a lot of people that want pets, but pets need a lot of food. A dog needs the same amount of food like a human being. And in the first years after the cataclysm, there will be no sun for maybe 30 years, so there won't be a lot of food to eat. So I can't allow that many pets in the beginning. Mm-hmm. That's a very important question because a lot of people ask that. There are people that want to go with 5 dogs and 20 cats and so on. We need chicken, we need horses, we need mules. That is important, but not dogs and cats. We need them, of course, but not in the amount that the people want them to come. Of course, if you say, look, here is $1 million and I want 5 dogs, then we say yes. But
are you planning basically? Are you planning an agriculture society, hunter-gatherer society?
Yes, no hunting society. We are basing agriculture society with a lot of fruits and vegetables. I wrote in Dutch 4 books about it. Normally, you can't have cancer nor heart attacks and all the other diseases if you follow a diet from carbohydrates, a lot of fruits and vegetables, and that is what we hope to do. I think that is the best survivable. There was in the Second World War in Denmark, there was a professor, and there was not enough food. And he stated, we have to kill all animals because we give too much food on our animals. And they did that so in Denmark, and the rate of cancer and heart attacks dropped dramatically. Everybody became fitter, and there was enough food for everybody. You can find it on the internet. To 1 kilo of meat, you need several kilos of grains. But it's better to eat the grains. You can feed a lot of more people. And in the first years of the cataclysm, that is, that will be the basic principle. We need food. We can't have a lot of animals, only a small amount of animals, and so we need, that is the basic for survival.
Are you including children?
Yes, we have a lot of children in our survival group. Many people with young children are in the survival group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, again, for listeners, Patrick has more information on his site at howtosurvive2012.com. Patrick, in your previous interviews, particularly Project Camelot, you doubted that governments would know about 2012. Since then, with NASA building a doomsday seed vault, George Lucas even telling an actor to watch out for 2012, among others, as well as George, you're noting that the Australian government is spending $40 billion on projects for once in a 10,000-year flood, like the Noah stories. Do you still think that some governments are not or are aware of 2012?
Well, if they are aware of 2012, they are not with the right theory, because if you build bunkers on a low ground, they will be destroyed by the earthquakes and the electromagnetic pulse. So the people that are in it won't survive. The only possibility that you have is high in the mountains. You can survive in small caves that are where the air can go out, then you can survive there. But in bunkers, that's another question. Especially if you have to open them with electricity or other things because of the earthquakes, I don't think that will be possible. So, for me, the governments, they may know it, but they are not acting very clever.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, dreams can sometimes provide premonitions of the future. We heard about your dream about 2012 and saw the pictures you drew from the documentary War of the World on Madriat.
Yeah.
Can you describe or explain more what you saw in your dreams about 2012, please?
I was standing on the shore of the sea, and then I saw the sun getting brighter, let us say, and the movement of the earth started, and everything went just under away. But I had several dreams when I was very young. You can find them, I think, on my website. I had dreams from huge explosions on the sun. And I always expected that something big was going to happen with the sun in not too far away future. And because of that intense dream, I knew that once I found the relationship with the sunspot cycle theory, that my dream was there for a special reason. And the reason is that I have to warn as many people as possible to try to survive the coming happenings.
Thank you, Patrick. Lua, you have a question?
Yes. Patrick, were you consulted about the movie 2012, and how close do you feel the movie came to describing what you expect to have happen here?
No, I was not consulted, so they made huge mistakes in the movie. You can see the airplanes flying and the cars driving. That's impossible, because with the change of the magnetic field, you will have an electromagnetic pulse that destroys all computers. So the airplanes will crash down, the cars will stop working. No, that is not the only fault. They make there the fault from the tidal wave above the Himalaya. That's 7 kilometers high. Crazy. Jesus. They should have consulted me. The movie was almost ready, and then they asked me to say things about the movie. They invited me to London, And then I had to say things before seeing the movie. And then I explained everything, and then they said, well, we will use that before the movie will be shown to the public in the theaters. But they never used what I was saying. So I feel very cheated about these guys. If they would have consulted me, the movie would have been at least 10 times better. I would have started in Egypt with the excavation of the labyrinth, the finding of the circle of gold, the previous civilization, the predictions that they made that came true, and then I would say, look, and then starting with 2012. And that would have had a much bigger impact than this movie.
Well, it does sound to me like you would have wanted to actually base it on reality instead of complete and total fabrication.
Yeah, they should have contacted me. They were very stupid. I would have done it for nothing.
Yeah. The problem with that, of course, is that it would have had to have been something, honest. So,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, definitely fact is stranger than fiction. In your book, How to Survive 2012, you stated that the crustal shifted the Earth 72 degrees in less than half an hour. That's approximately 5,000 miles. How confident are you of the speed of the crustal shift?
Yeah, that is a problem I hope to solve also in the labyrinth from Egypt, because it looks quite large shift in such a short amount of time. But I think there is a possible other explanation for it. If you move the whole Earth, it's not a crustal shift, it's a movement, I think, from the whole Earth at once. And that is a better explanation for it, but still it's very fast. So I only can say what I decoded, and did I have a misinterpretation? Is it not a half an hour? Is it 5 hours? No, it could be. I don't know. I'm not sure of it.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Because the reason why we ask is that we have heard tales, and there are stories and myths about the crustal shift occurring in 3 jerks over a 30 or 40 hour period. Also, with the Earth speed being 1,000 miles per hour. For the Earth to slow down and stop, and then to start from 0 and speed up to 1,000 miles per hour again in the opposite direction, it produces kinetic energy, friction, and subsequently between the crust and the mantle. If it was too fast, wouldn't there be too much heat that all life on Earth would be killed? So there would have to be restrictions on the speed of the crustal shift and the speed of the deceleration.
Yeah. Yeah, that is right. But I expect the one from next year to happen in 2 or 3 days. So not in hours. And that won't make a big hit. There was... I don't know if I have the link again. There was a scientist who researched the possibility of a stop of the Earth rotation and then going to the other side. And he stated clearly that what the scientists think today, that it stops and then reverses, that is impossible. I agree, that is impossible. But I have another explanation. I say it's an upside down movement from the inner core, and you don't need that much energy to do it, and also you don't produce a lot of energy while working it out. So, but the movement from the 72 degrees, that is still, like you said, is considering me. I don't know. Maybe there is an easy explanation for it that I overlook. So,
okay, thank you. Ground Rod, you have a question.
Aren't we at a pretty late hour here, Patrick, to find anything out from within the labyrinth?
Yeah, we are, of course, over time. I was the first time in Egypt in 1997. So, and then in 2005, I was there with friends of Poland that knew Egyptians that could make everything possible. And then it went a bit down until 2008, we scanned the labyrinth with a georadar. We found the labyrinth. You can find the link on my website with the things on it. And so the labyrinth is really there. Unfortunately, it is underwater because 200 years ago there was a Frenchman who put a side canal of the Nile above it to have water for the desert to make their fruit and vegetables. So the problem is the labyrinth is underwater and we have to pump the water out. And for that fact, I think we are really too late. But still, I want to see it, if possible. Eh?
Thank you, Patrick. Neo, you have a question for Patrick?
Yes, thanks, Jules. Patrick, the Hopi have a prophecy, or the Hopi prophecy has a particular petroglyph on a rock cliff in the Black Mesa of Arizona depicting the four worlds. Are you aware of this?
No. What is on the petroglyph? Do you know what it is?
Well, in the Hopi prophecy, the first world apparently ended when all the volcanoes of the world erupted and an all-consuming fire engulfed the first world. The second world apparently ended when the poles shifted and the earth was covered in ice and mountains fell into the oceans and seas. In the third world, it was destroyed through water with large continents sinking and breaking apart into small islands and incredible rains fell. The Hopi say the fourth world will be destroyed by a purge by fire. Could you be mistaken in your assumption that the one to fear for 2012 is not so much the floods but the solar flares or coronal mass ejections that the Hopi prophecy seemed to state?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I already said that the time between the cataclysm is now 300 years more. So the sun had time to build more destruction in it. And what the Hopi are saying could be quite true, that we will be destroyed by huge solar flares and coronal mass ejections at the end of times in 2012. I think they make something quite important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. We have only 2 or 3 more questions left, Patrick. Cliff's research shows that crustal shifts have occurred in the past when the physical pole meets the magnetic pole. Are you aware of this?
Yeah. No, I'm not aware of the research from Cliff about this. No, sorry. Can't say anything about it.
That's fine. Some researchers also show that there is a hidden government, like Operation, that have advanced technology, and they may be trying to move the magnetic pole away from the physical pole. They may be trying to shut down the jet stream or the ocean currents to force an ice age to try to stop a crustal shift. Do you think if we were into an ice age that we could prevent a crustal shift or at least minimize it?
No, that won't make much difference, because a crustal shift comes from the inner core of the Earth, and there is nothing possible to stop this happening. No.
Okay, great, thank you. Patrick, as we end this discussion, we wanted to ask you one final question. For many, 2012 may be the end of this life. In a previous documentary, I heard you say that during your early days, after just finding out about this information, you became very depressed. Recently, your outlook has changed, and you seem to be taking this as a challenge. What is your aim in life now, and what drives you?
Well, the only thing that I can do is try to survive it. It's not for me, It's for humanity. If I can put some people together that are smart enough to see in the future, in the far, far away future, to warn the far, far away descendants that this will happen again, and that they need to establish a certain kind of civilization that will learn from this, and also that will make the maybe fatal mistakes that we are making. That is what I want to put far away in the future, and that is my aim. If all the nuclear reactors go down and the nuclear fuel also blows up, it could be too late for humanity. So, but if we don't try, we don't have a chance. And we go for it.
Yes, very true. We are at the end of the show. Thank you, Patrick. Dank u wel.
Okay.
I hope you have enjoyed the interview like we have enjoyed. If not, teshlech or bad luck.
Yeah.
I believe there is a Dutch saying which says, "The future is a book with 7 locks." Translated, it means nobody can predict the future.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this time the saying will be wrong, and a Belgian by the name of Patrick Geryl can predict the future. Although I hope you.
Well, let me state this. This is not about a prediction.
No.
This is a calculation from the Maya. So this is not a prophecy. It's not a prediction. It is a basic calculation. They knew something that we don't know. It's like the theory of Newton. With the theory of Newton, you can say, in 10 million years, the moon will be there and Mars will be there and so on. And the gravitation of the Earth is that way. And as the same, the Maya calculated the end of the magnetic field of the Earth for 2012. That's it.
Through a forecast or extrapolation, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I hope you are wrong, Patrick, it is only a fool who doesn't listen to your work and do their own research. Either way, many people in the world will be better prepared because of your work. On behalf of Fox and all the members of the WebBot Forum, we thank you for your time and your work. May you have many pies to come. Dank u wel.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And,
yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very, very much, Patrick.
Very much. Yes, indeed.
So I hope you can get the word out.
And I think it's time to start working till October 2011, Patrick.
We are already started.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
I can't say more. So.
Okay. Good night. Good afternoon.
I hope more people enjoy. Yep. Bye.